Welcome back in, everybody, to Tuesday's edition of Birds 365. Just 7 days remaining till the Philadelphia Eagles report for training camp. Joined now by Big Bill Colarulo from 97.5 The Fanatic. Bill, what's going on, man? How you doing?
What's going on, gentlemen? 7 days.
7 days,
7
baby.
days. Yeah,
Can't
we're
wait.
almost here. How excited are you? I did not know. Xander informed me, Bill Colarulo, that you were nicknamed Bill Spadaro in the chat at times. Is that true?
When we had the power hour, I was being called Bill Spadaro for my positivity. I call it objectivity, not positivity. But hey, unless you're just over the top negative, I guess you're Dave Spadaro in the chat.
No, that's one I never get. So I'm too negative because
Yeah.
I never get the Spadaro.
I forget what it was even about. I think it was because after I let the emotion subside of the way the season ended, I said, you know what? Sirianni deserves to come back.
Well, I said that.
But I don't know. What else was it? What else was it, Xander? You used to produce the Power Hour. What else did I say that had people calling me Billy Spuds?
I don't know. I think you were just overly positive for the most part, talking about the football team. And some people, just said, hey, this is Bill. Also, you had Dave on weekly.
I did have Dave on weekly.
And that helped fuel the nickname, where you were bringing Dave up. And then they were like, hey, Bill is like Dave Spadaro.
I couldn't be too positive because Darius Slay has me blocked on Twitter for whatever reason. So
probably
obviously I said something that I had said something that bothered him.
Yeah. Well, Slay had a problem with our other host. But yeah, I don't think Slay has blocked me yet. So, but I'm generally
Slay and Big Sills have spoken since that moment, and I think they're actually fine.
I think he blocked me because it was the San Francisco 49ers game. Seth Joyner called out the defense for not wanting to tackle. Slay went back at Seth. I had Seth on my show that week, and we talked about it. So I think I was guilty by association probably. But look, I like Slay. I think Slay is probably very underrated in this city. I think he's an extremely good corner. But when he did say what he said about Seth Joyner, I think he called him that guy. It was like, come on, man, show some respect for the people who paved the way for
well, that by the way is like, football players generally aren't, some are, but I would say it's rare that they're historians. So it shouldn't surprise people that, current players don't know some of the Eagles greats of the past. And obviously Seth was a great player. But Seth and I get into it all the time. Look, it's a different game. And, Seth is still caught in that era where, and Bobby King joked about it, where, the new linebackers coach, Bill, when he was asked about, who do you like? And he comes up with Dick Butkus, Ray Lewis. Who doesn't like Dick Butkus and Ray Lewis? And people ask, who's the closest to them? And he's like, well, nobody's playing like Dick Butkus. They get fined 15 times. I mean, it's a completely different game.
And the emphasis on, we have to blitz, we have to be aggressive. To me, that is old school. I don't think the way to be successful on defense in today's NFL is to blitz a lot. You look at some of your most successful defenses last season, the most aggressive. People would say the 49ers and the Ravens and the Jets. They're all like in the bottom of the league when it comes to blitz percentage. They don't blitz a lot. You could be aggressive without blitzing. These quarterbacks are too good. Look, the Eagles had no answers for the blitz.
The Eagles aren't.
Other NFL teams did.
Yeah. We were talking about that, Bill. Yeah.
Because the Eagles are not effective against the blitz. And I think the assumption is, well, it's about the blitz versus, like, good luck if you're blitzing, Tom Brady back in the day. I mean, that's just dumb. Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes today, tremendous numbers against the blitz. So most guys can handle, most of the superstar quarterbacks will handle the blitz. They want you to blitz and put less guys in coverage. So I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think Mick Fangio, though, since you went down that route, I think Sean McVay calls it the illusion of complexity on offense. I think you're going to get that with Vic. So people might see Devin White blitz, but he's really not blitzing because they're dropping someone else and you're still rushing 4. So they'll see aggression, and I think they'll be happy, even though it's sort of the illusion of aggression.
Yeah, he's not bringing 0 blitzes, Vic Fangio. And in fact, I went and looked at his last 5 seasons as either a DC or a head coach. Last year, they were 27th in blitz percentage. The year before, 15th, middle of the pack. The year before that,
15th. I'm shocked he got up to 15th, to be honest.
15th in his last year at Denver, and they had a top 3 defense. And then 18th the year before, and then he was 23rd. But last year, 27th in blitz rate, number 3 in sacks. So whatever he did work in getting to the quarterback.
Well, that's what I like about Vic, because I guarantee if you go through those years when the blitz numbers are a little bit higher, you didn't have good rushers. Like Van Ginkel had a great year before he got hurt. Phillips obviously had a great year before he got hurt. He had so many injuries. He didn't need the blitz. So if he doesn't need the blitz, you're not blitzing. Yeah. That's dumb. If you get home with 4, like the Eagles did in 2022, why would you blitz?
I'm right there with you. But I do agree with you, though, even though it's not technically a blitz if they bring Devin White and drop someone else into coverage. I do expect to see Devin White blitz the quarterback a little bit, because he did that really well in Tampa. It was one of the things he continued to do well, even though he struggled in pass protection, struggled with tackling, struggled being motivated, from my understanding, what I've read. He was always a pretty decent blitzer.
Yeah, well, he's a great athlete. I mean, nobody's going to criticize Devin White, but I got to tell you, at linebacker, to me, I'm the team Nakobe or bust, man. He's got to show up this year. He's got to be the guy. Like, I am not confident in any ceiling other than Nakobe Dean at linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles. Where are you on the Nakobe Dean status heading into training camp?
I'm with you. I mean, he needs to step up and be the stud in the middle there, in my opinion. But I mean, how could you be confident about it? We haven't seen it. He played 34 snaps as a rookie, 100 something last year. Was it 132? I have the number somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not confident in it, Bill, but
yeah, he played.
I think it's going to be a disaster
182
if he doesn't. I think the position is going to be an abject disaster.
Yeah, I mean, you look,
take that step forward.
You got Devin White, like we were just talking about. His ceiling is high, but next to him, what is the answer if it's not Nakobe Dean? And I'm curious to see, John, what happens at training camp a week from today, because last year, if you remember, they anointed Nakobe Dean right away. He was wearing the green dot. He was the starter. He was going to be the leader on the defense. Didn't work out that way. Season ends this past season. And if you remember Howie Roseman's first press conference, when he had to defend himself a little bit, saying, hey, it's not true that we ignore the linebacker room. In fact, we've got good linebacker play in both of our Super Bowl appearances, and we're very high on Nakobe. We continue to be very high on Nakobe. So he better step up. I mean, I'm right there with you. I think a lot of this defense is going to come down to how well Nakobe Dean plays. But if Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Milton Williams do their job at the D-tackle position, Nakobe Dean's job gets a little bit easier right there, at least against the run. But how does he hold up in pass protection?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Bill, just 7 days out, man. 7 days out from training camp. If you can believe it, it feels like yesterday we just got blown out in Tampa, and everybody was, just struggling to get through that. But what's top of mind right now as we're 7 days out from training camp for you? I mean, a lot of storylines, a lot of different changes, coming off a 1-6 collapse that's been talked about all summer long. What's top of mind for Bill Colarulo as we're 7 days out here from training camp?
We have obviously a lot of questions about the defense, and most of those are more personnel related. But on the offensive side of the ball, what's top of mind is I just really want to see Jalen Hurts in this offense grasp however new the offense is going to be. Look, we heard 95% from Jalen. I don't think that's accurate, but that's what I want to see. I want to see this offense really start to grow and start to click with all these new pieces as far as play calls. It's pretty much the same personnel. You got Cam Jurgens obviously moving the center. whoever's going to be the starting right guard, and then Saquon Barkley. But that's what I want to see. I want to see Jalen Hurts really grasp this offense and make it his own. I'm not expecting that to necessarily happen, though, during training camp. I think we may have to see it a few weeks into the season. I'm not expecting Hurts and the offense to come out firing on all cylinders week one. I'm going to give them some time. But that's what I'm really looking forward to seeing is, okay, how does Jalen grasp this new offense, his 10th play caller in the last 9 years or however many it's been? It's pretty crazy. So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think it's the biggest story of the season, really, how Kellen Moore and Jalen Hurts kind of mesh together, and whether Kellen Moore sort of pounds the square peg in the round hole, or if he builds the offense around the strengths of Jalen Hurts. I think he's smart enough to do the latter.
Yep.
But that's going to be the story of the season. And it's going to be something that I think, Bill, you're right. It's not going to be answered in 1 week. It's going to be a constant sort of evolution as the season goes on. When it comes to personnel, though, and you and I have talked about Saquon a lot, I think that's the splashiest move. But I think Bryce Huff is the most important move. And from that, I say, to me, Saquon's a luxury. If he got, God forbid, hurt in training camp, the Eagles are still going to have a good offense with Kenny Gainwell, Will Shipley, and someone else.
You and I are right there. You know, I do those shows at night with Andrew DeCecco.
Yeah.
And we both said, look, who's the most important offseason acquisition for this Eagles team? Now, Andrew took Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and made a valid argument for it. I said Bryce Huff, because I think Bryce Huff has to be the guy on the edge. He has to show that he can play more than 42% of the snaps. But you look at what made this defense so good 2 years ago, it was getting those 70 sacks. And you're now asking Bryce Huff to replace Hassan Reddick. You no longer have Fletcher Cox at D tackle. You need Bryce Huff to be the guy. Now, look, maybe Nolan Smith can step up in year 2. But even if Nolan Smith steps up, Josh Sweat can't play 800 snaps again. You saw what happened when he hit that wall. Yeah. What do you have behind them? Brandon Graham, he's not going to give you much in his final season, his swan song season. So Jalix Hunt's probably a redshirt year. Yeah. So I agree. I think Bryce Huff is the most important acquisition. I don't want to see Saquon get hurt, but yes.
No, I want to make that clear.
Yeah.
But the Eagles are going to have a good offense. He's a luxury.
Yeah.
Bryce Huff is a necessity.
100%. Yep. Saquon, that's a great way to put it. Saquon was not a necessity. He was more of a want when you hit free agency. Once you decided you were going to trade Hassan Reddick, Bryce Huff was a need. You had to get a pass rusher, and they took a chance. I mean, this is all based on projection. Huff last year had 10 sacks. He never had even close to that his first 3 seasons in the NFL. So can Bryce Huff really step up and take on a larger role? I'm hopeful he can, but I'm right there with you. That's a big, big question mark headed into the 24 season.
Yeah, and I'm high on Bryce Huff, but his pressure percentages are outrageous.
Unbelievable, man.
And you know, obviously limited, but I think people look at last year because he had the 10 sacks and his pressure rate was 20, depending on what you have, 20.3% from the Football Outsiders guys, which was second to Micah Parsons. And he had 50 or more pressures playing, as you mentioned, Bill.
Yeah,
40% of the time.
I think it was 42%. And I got my numbers from Pro Football Focus, but pretty close to that, John. They had him at a 22.9%.
Yeah, so there's a little shift. And Next Gen Stats had him number 1, not only in 2023, but he was number 1 in 2022. Yeah, again, in a limited.
And to put that into perspective for people, according to Pro Football Focus, Reddick's win rate was 14%. Yeah. So if Bryce Huff's winning close to 23% and Reddick's winning 14%, we know how good Reddick is. Reddick's a great pass rusher. So if this kid can step up and take on a larger role, the Eagles may have hit a home run getting him at the price that they did, but It is projection.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And you got to be fair. Sorry, Xander.
No, you're
but
good.
Just
Yeah,
to
no.
finish it up, the Jets have a tremendous supporting cast. He was
1000%.
asked to do one thing. He's now going to be asked to be a more well-rounded player, set the edge and run support, drop in coverage occasionally with big. So he's going to have to do a lot of different things. I don't expect it to be 22% when he was just pinning his ears back. But when he gets to pin his ears back, I think it'll be 22%. It'll be that good.
Yep.
He's tough to block. I think Howie got this one right, but it's a projection, as you mentioned.
Yeah, we'll see how Bryce Huff plays this year. Going to be a big one, as you guys mentioned. He is a necessity on this team to play well. Bill, I'm going to put you on the spot here. We are 52 days away from the Philadelphia Eagles kicking off in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Who's the cornerback opposite Darius Slay on week 1?
That's a good one. That is a good one. So I was saying before the mandatory minicamp that I thought Keely Ringo was going to win the job. But everything I've heard was that how good Isaiah Rodgers looked in mandatory minicamp as well. So I think it's a toss-up between Rodgers and Keely Ringo. I'm still extremely high on Keely, but Isaiah Rodgers, from what I've read, and I wasn't down there, John was extremely impressive. So I don't know if that really answers your question. I'm going Rodgers or Ringo. I'm not going Quinyon Mitchell. I said that the night they drafted him. A lot of people were saying he was going to be the starter. I said, don't rule out Keely. And now that Isaiah Rodgers is battling as well, I don't think it'll be Quinyon. I think it'll be one of those two.
Isaiah Rodgers was phenomenal. He was my offseason MVP. I gave him that official award.
And he won the home run derby at Devontae Smith's softball
home run
game.
derby. Keely Ringo was almost as good. And people who watch the show know I love Keely Ringo as a prospect. But yeah, I'm on Team Quinyon. I mean, they want him to play. He's going to play. That's where now the one wrinkle in that thought could be Vic doesn't seem to give a you know what. So if he like if we're up to Howie, I'd be very confident in saying Quinyon Mitchell's going to be the starter week 1 if he's healthy. But Vic will be like, screw that. I'm going to play who I want. So I do think the door is open for Rodgers and or Ringo. And if Quinyon shows up and he's not good and has a really bad summer, which I don't expect to happen because he also looked good.
Yeah.
All the corners, that was the story. All the young corners of the spring, they all look good. But I just think they want Quinyon on the field and Cooper as well. And that makes it more difficult for
Keely
Isaiah and Keely.
But the only thing is with Howie Roseman is he did trade away a 3rd round pick to move up in the 4th round to get Keely Ringo. So I wouldn't be shocked if he wants to see that kid play too. And look, you got to give Roseman credit. As soon as the Colts cut Isaiah Rodgers, he signed them immediately. So I think Howie would be okay with all 3 of those guys playing. But look, there's only 2 outside corner spots, and Ringo, Slay, and Ringo, Rodgers, and Quinyon, I don't think are playing the slot corner position. I don't think they're going to move them into the nickel. I know Rodgers, a lot of people thought he had that body type, but you and I have talked about this before. In Indianapolis, they had a good nickel corner, so he played outside his whole career. Is that a move maybe they would try come training camp? We'll have to see.
I think eventually you'll see some cross training because the body type, as you said, but they're much better stocked at slot corner this year because of what happened last year. So you'd have to get past Cooper and Abante and even they brought in Tyler Hall, which not a lot of people talk about, but he's an NFL level player. Perry Nickerson they signed. Who was with Vic last year, who's a traditional slot corner. So they got a bunch of options.
Yeah, Tyler Hall's kind of that under-the-radar move that could make this team and actually contribute in a big way at that slot corner. Because you're right, he started a bunch of games, and he was one of the guys that Andrew DeCecco said he was very impressed with was Tyler Hall.
Yeah, and he can play safety as well. He's got some versatility. So he's got that Avonte Maddox sort of mirrored.
How many corners you think they
ability.
keep, John? 7?
I think they keep 7 and they keep 3. So I think people will look at it and because they keep talking about Simmons, like, well, you need a force safety. You need a force safety. Well, no, you don't, because guys like Avante can back up at safety. Tyler Hall can back up at safety if you keep them. So by keeping an extra corner, it allows you to keep, because they're so deep at corner, it allows you to keep another young body. But you know what? It's the roster rules have gotten so liberal now, Bill. It's not as fun. You probably end up keeping everybody you want anyway.
Yeah.
One of the most overblown things, and I'll be talking about this in training camp, is when you get down to the 53 and people are worried about losing people on waivers. It's like 40 guys a year. It's so overblown. Are you going to lose by? And the Eagles typically, because they have a talented roster, they're susceptible to losing a guy or two, but that'll be it. And most of the majority of the 90-man roster, you got 53, you got 16 on the practice squad. You're going to have some attrition. Now they've changed the IR rules. You can put guys on IR before the 53 and they can come back, 2 guys. It's not as fun. It's not as fun. That's where Howie would beat people, winning outside the margins with the strategy of building the roster. Now all these dummies can keep everybody they want to keep.
There are a lot of dummies, man.
Yeah.
Making decisions in the NFL.
My concern with back to Isaiah Rodgers. My concern with Isaiah Rodgers is, look, I know we keep saying Vic is going to play the best guy, but at some point, the business of the NFL is going to supersede Vic Fangio, and definitely in Philadelphia, where this is Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie's football team. This is not Vic Fangio, first-year coordinator in Philly's football team. If they want a guy to play, I think they're going to overrule Vic. Maybe not to a big extent, but specifically at that cornerback position, they have draft equity and capital in a lot of young guys. Keely Ringo, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. These are all up-and-coming players. Do they default to Isaiah Rodgers, a guy they picked up from Indy on a 1-year deal? You know, do they go to him over getting some of their young draft picks on the field? That's where I struggle with. Do they see the long term with Isaiah like they do with the younger guys? And do they value giving him snaps now versus ripping the Band-Aid off on some of the younger guys to have that long-term cornerback answer? I struggle with that. I don't know if Isaiah has a path to playing time because of that.
Yeah, because Howie Roseman did say when he spoke this offseason that, look, sometimes the coaches may look at the depth chart and see a guy who hasn't done it before, but we're high on him. That's why we drafted him. He talked about wanting to play young players, if you remember. He was talking about Nolan Smith a lot, too, that he wished he would have played a little bit more. But, look, at the end of the day, and I know what you're saying, Roseman, Lurie, I'm going to be called Dave Spadaro here in a second, I think. But Roseman and Lurie, yes, they have a lot to say, but they also want to win. I mean, this is a winning organization. I don't think that if Vic Fangio went to Roseman and said, Isaiah Rodgers gives us the best chance of winning, Quinyon Mitchell's not ready, that Howie Roseman's going to say, I don't care. I want Quinyon Mitchell to play, and we're going to lose football games. I just think at the end, they want to win, especially with the way the last season went. Now, look, I don't understand why they kept rolling out James Bradbury last year. That could have been contractual because of the fact he was making so much money, and they didn't give some of the younger guys an opportunity until late in the season. But I just think, yes, you're right. They do have a lot of power. Roseman has a lot of power, but they want to win games. They want to win. This team has been a very successful organization over the last 20 years because of Jeffrey Lurie, and a lot of it because of Howie Roseman. So I don't think that they're going to do things that are going to hurt this team in the immediate future.
Plus, I think there's a misconception about Howie and the overbearing nature of forcing people on the roster dating back to Doug Peterson, or Nolan Smith is a perfect example of that. You heard Howie say that was at the combine where he said, you know, I wish Nolan would have played a little bit more. As you explained it, Bill, you know, we drafted him for a reason. Maybe he's not proven, blah, blah, blah. Bottom line is Nick didn't play him. or Sean Desai, Matt Patricia didn't play him because they were given a rope to not play him.
Yeah.
He doesn't override people. Now, where it changes, look, Bick's on board. Bick understands Quinyon Mitchell's a big-time prospect. He's got a much bigger upside than I'm a big Ringo guy, so I'm not going to say Ringo, but he's got a much bigger upside because I think if Ringo would have stayed in college, he would have been a first-round pick.
I think he would have been taken in front of Quinyon Mitchell.
People forget how young he is. Keely's younger than Quinyon right now.
Yeah, Keely, I think Keely's going to be great. That's my problem with Isaiah, guys. Like,
Isaiah doesn't have that upside.
I know,
if being honest.
Yeah.
Or Cooper DeJean as well. And Nick's on board. Vic, is on board. He understands that. He understands the ultimate goal of this organization is to get Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean ready and to get them on the field as quickly as humanly possible. That's part of the plan. When they hit training camp on Tuesday next week, he knows that's the plan.
Yeah.
Not like he's going to show up and they're going to, I mean, it's about Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. And then it's about Keely Ringo. And then it's about Isaiah Rodgers. But if they go through a whole summer and Vic says they're not ready, Isaiah Rodgers is my best option to win against the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love, he'll play Isaiah Rodgers. Yeah, but I think that's a smaller path than Quinyon has, to say the least.
But you know what could help whoever's over there at corner would be the guy we talked about a few minutes ago, and that's Bryce Huff. They get that strong pass rush.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why they were #1 in sacks 2 years ago, and they also had the #1 pass defense. And then when you saw the sacks drop to 19th, the pass defense drops to 31st. So if that D-line does its job, whether it's Quinyon, Keely, Isaiah, whoever it is, it'll help them a great deal if they hit on Bryce Huff the way they think they did.
Bill, let's talk offense. How about offense? What's on your – I mean, I know the big story is Jalen Hurts and Kellen Moore. We talked a little bit about that. But, I mean, when you dive into the nitty-gritty, what are the biggest questions on offense coming into the year? I mean, it's such a talented group, Bill. When I think about this offense, I'm like, you couldn't give Kellen Moore more assets if it was your #1 objective. I mean,
couldn't give Kellen Moore more.
You couldn't. I mean, he's the two probably the best tandem wide receivers in the NFL, arguably a top 3 tandem, a great tight end, a great running back, a top 5 offensive line, a top 10 quarterback. I mean, it's all there for Kellen Moore. What are your biggest questions coming into the year on that offense?
I think the most obvious one is the offensive line and how Cam Jurgens takes over at center, and then who's your right guard. I'm confident. I think Cam Jurgens is going to be really good at center. He's not going to be Jason Kelce. I don't think we'll ever see a Jason Kelce again. But I think Jurgens is going to be very good at center. It was a small sample size 2 years ago, but when Kelce missed the preseason and Jurgens played with the ones, he impressed me as a rookie at center. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do at center. And then the main question is, well, who is the right guard? Is it Mekhi Becton? Is it Tyler Steen? But that really is the main question. And then you have to hope and pray, and I think he'll be okay, that Lane Johnson is still playing at a dominant level. Hopefully he stays healthy. Their record with and without him is unbelievable. So if Lane Johnson can stay healthy, I'm expecting Mailata to grow again. I'm expecting Landon Dickerson to get even better. So now it just comes down to, well, how does your center and right guard play? And if this offensive line can be good, I think we're looking at probably a top 3 offense.
Yeah, I mean, that's the expectation is certainly #8 wasn't good enough.
Right.
A lot of that is recency bias because they obviously fell off down the stretch. But this offense is too talented. I think about, the ceiling versus the floor.
Yeah,
ceiling's #1. The floor is probably 10.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not going to be a bad offense.
Like you just said, 8th last season in terms of yards, 7th in points. And I don't think there's a single person who watched the Eagles who would say, yeah, that offense was great last year.
And
they still finished top 10.
That's the expectations, man.
Yeah, tough climb for Kellen Moore. I mean, it's like top 5 or bust at this point for him.
Yeah. I'm excited for what he's going to do, though. I really am. And I'm excited for Jalen Hurts this year. I think Jalen Hurts, I don't think his season last year was as bad as some people are making it out to be. Yes, the turnovers were a problem, but I don't think there's a lot of narrative that he took this massive step back. I don't think it was that massive of a step back. I think turnovers
No, neither do
contributed to
I.
it.
I think it was all turnovers. I say it
Yeah.
all the time. He generated 35 touchdowns when he was an MVP candidate. He generated 38 when everybody thinks he stinks. The whole difference in that offense was the turnovers.
Yep.
He threw a total of 15 interceptions over 21 and 22, and he had 15 alone in last season. And then you had the fumbles. Eerie. Every year, Jalen Hurts has fumbled 9 times. But
Just
last
who
year,
recovers them?
yeah, last year he lost 5, which was a career high.
Yeah, the year before he only lost 2 of those 9, and it's turnovers aren't an issue. But yeah, I'm right there with. Look at me and John seeing eye to eye on a lot today. We like Keely Ringo.
I'm like Spadaro.
We like Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
I'm excited for Hurts this year. I'm excited to see Hurts really ball out this season. And look,
I just hope people don't try to change him. I mean,
well, you and I talked about that last week, John, about what Kevin O'Connell did to Josh Dobbs in Minnesota when they tried to make him Kirk Cousins. So CBS Sports put out their list of all 32 coaches, and they ranked them. And they had Kevin O'Connell ranked higher than Nick Sirianni, and I lost my mind because I don't see O'Connell's never won a playoff game. You got Josh Dobbs. He's balling out being Josh Dobbs, and then you said, I'm going to make you fit my offense. And it was a disaster down the stretch. So I'm right there with you. Kellen Moore has to build an offense that takes advantage of Jalen Hurts' skill set, not force Jalen Hurts to fit into your offense, and I think he will.
Look, I think you guys are right about Jalen Hurts last year, and it's a little bit overblown, the regression, and it's more turnovers. But is it? I mean, there's 3 of us sitting up here. Is it just me that didn't see the dynamic player you saw in 22 last year? I mean,
he didn't look as explosive.
There was
definitely a knee injury.
Stats were fine. He had a lot of touchdowns. I just didn't see it in the eye test. I didn't see the guy I saw in 22 who every time he took the field, it was like, don't take your eye off the screen because at any moment Jalen Hurts could do something.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. I think it was mainly health related, certainly. Yeah. But even if you go back to week 1, he didn't look as explosive. And look, if that was injury related, I don't think it's a big deal. I think he goes back to being the explosive player that he is. I think that was the reason. If it wasn't, he's only 25 years old. He's going to be 26 soon, but I find it very hard to believe he's lost his athleticism.
Yeah, but John, don't you get nervous about, like, this is what everybody's worry is with this style of quarterback in the first place. They don't last as long. So if you started to see
I know that going in.
Are we positive he's going to get back to that level of playmaking ability? I think it's a fair question.
It's a fair question. I don't know, Bill, your thoughts, but mine is I know that going in, he's not going to have the Tom Brady shelf life. I'm okay with that. I want to take advantage of Jalen Hurts' shelf life for as long as that's possible. I'm not trying to turn him into what we just talked about. Josh Dobbs being a play action quarterback, turning his back to the line of scrimmage. And then he, you affect, and by the way, he's much better than Josh Dobbs. But the Football Outsiders guys sent me their almanac this year, which is phenomenal. A lot of good nuggets there. It's now called FTN, so if people want to order it, we're going to have Aaron Schatz on later in the week. I'll try to get Mike Tanier as well. The Eagles use more shotgun or pistol. This is one of their notes than any other offense for the second straight season. I think most people know that. They were particularly bad when they tried to run the ball from under center, averaging just 1.9 yards per carry. Now, part of that is the tush push and all that, which skews it a little bit. But for the life of me, Bill, why do people want to turn this offense into something that they're not good at?
Just because of the way the season ended last year. I mean, it's just we're looking for changes because we didn't like the way the season ended. But Look, I know the whole shotgun versus non-shotgun thing. If you've played football like Jalen Hurts has played throughout his life, he'll be fine under center if that's what they choose to do. I agree. I don't want to see him under center all of the time, but if Kellen Moore wants to put him under center a little bit and run the football or, run a little bit of play action, I don't think it's the end of the world. But Kellen Moore said something at his first press conference that had me excited, because what he said was that Jalen Hurts' running ability is a weapon that they do want to take advantage of. He didn't say we're going to change him. He didn't say, hey, we want to keep him healthy. He said they're going to take advantage of his running ability. So, look, if he's under center a little bit more this year, I don't have a problem with it. But I don't – he played quarterback his entire life. He's been under center before. I know in college he was in the shotgun a lot, but I'm not buying that he can't figure out how to be under center and run the football a little bit more.
Yeah,
and I think you're right, though, John, when you say the tush push. That tush push does really skew those numbers. They're picking up a yard every time. How many times did they run that last year?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely skews the numbers.
Especially because they're not under center that much. Like you said, they were under center the least of pretty much any team in the NFL. So when you factor in that with all the tush pushes, that's probably why the yards per carry.
But it's a larger thematic theme for me, because I just don't understand. People have seen the success of this offense. Yes, it was disappointing at the end of last season, and then you want to scrap the whole thing. The greatest stretch of build-up Eagles football history, and they're now 91 years old, Bill. So it's not like they're 10 years old, was when they won 29 of 32 or whatever it was with that offense, and everybody's okay with scrapping it.
Well, no,
I mean, just cut the turnovers down.
Short though. I'm worried it's over. That's my worry. Is that he's never going to return to that guy because of the attrition of the NFL.
Well, I guarantee there's one way you can guarantee he never returns to that guy, and that's by doing what Bill just explained Kevin O'Connell did with Josh Dobbs, who stinks, by the way. I'm not comparing Josh Dobbs to Jalen Hurts as a player, but he was pretty amazing just doing stuff off schedule, and they won some football games. And then they tried to turn him, as Bill said, into Kirk Cousins, and he was flipping awful.
You know what the best part of this conversation is, boys? We're going to find out real soon, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
We got a week.
Yes, we are.
Week to go.
Man. Yeah, so we're over 10. We're after hours here on Birds 365. Bill, thanks for stepping in, bro. Thanks for your extended time.
At Bill Colarulo. Make sure you follow him on X, Twitter, 97.5 The Fanatic. You on tonight with Andrew?
Yeah, I'm doing the next 2 weeks. I'm on 2 to 7, but 6 to 7 is me and DeCecco doing our Birds show. So
all right,
check it out.
Tell Andrew I knew him before it was a big deal. So don't big time me.
He's a good dude, Andrew.
Yeah, he's a smart guy too. When you talk football with him, you learn something. So I appreciate him for sure. Bill, thanks for joining the show, man. We appreciate you being here.
All right, gentlemen. I'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, bud.
Bill Colarulo joining us on Birds 365. Good stuff from Big Bill. Always appreciate getting him back up. Always had a great show here on JAKIB Sports. For those who don't know, the Philly Sports Power Hour, and then he went big time on us. He's over on the radio. So good stuff from Bill Colarulo. Johnny Mac, good show today, man. It'll be after today. It'll be just 6 days until the Eagles report, and we are creeping up on the start of training camp. Good show today. Any closing thoughts from you to wrap up this Tuesday show?
Yeah, I don't plug my own stuff a lot, but people should go over to si.com/NFL/Eagles and read my rebranding of Nick Sirianni.
It's a tremendous piece, John. Really, really good piece.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to like it, so I appreciate those that did. I think it captures what went on pretty well, and that's live. You can find it on my Twitter at JF McMullen. I pinned it at the top, so everybody check that out, and we're getting closer and closer.
Yeah, really good stuff from Johnny Mac. I'm going to just pull it up real quick for everybody to see. Really good article here from John. This is Johnny Mac at his best, everybody. Here's the article. Go to si.com/NFL/Eagles. This is the title of the article. Johnny Mac really crushed it. I mean, this is a masterclass in writing, and Johnny Mac he's the best at covering the Birds. So definitely go and check that out. read the article. John, good work there as always. Good work today, Johnny Mac, on Birds 365. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, man.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you guys in the chat. Make sure you guys hit the like button on your way out, and we will see you tomorrow on Birds 365.